Please welcome Justus. This is the halls of justice. Welcome. This is the halls of justice. Are you ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome, live on stage, Justus.
Oh, it's Justus and the Fat Man again this week. Nice to have you along. Usually this is the point where I say if you just tuned in today, then you couldn't have picked a better day. But I have been under the weather for the better part of 3 days, and I have been seriously lacking in my duties of gathering all the entertainment you're about to hear today. So today I feel a little bit better. And how you doing, Fat Man?
I'm great, and I hope you're better than you look, because Rosie O'Donnell on her worst day looks better than you do right now.
No, stop it. She doesn't look better than anything.
But I'd still date you over her. I'm just saying.
Awesome. So something kind of rubbed me the wrong way today, right off the rip. So I got up from my usual mid-morning, early afternoon nap. And the story all over Fox News is that Tiger Woods was in an accident. My gosh, he was in an accident. He had to be cut out of the car. Tiger Woods broke his legs. He's this and that. They devoted a half an hour of news time talking about this accident. And I don't know if it's me. I don't know if I'm desensitized. But if it were anybody else, why would they get 30 minutes of time other than it's Tiger Woods? And I really don't care about his accident. I'm happy he's alive. I'm happy nobody got killed in the accident, but it was a one-car accident, and we devote 30 minutes of network national news to Tiger Woods. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on this? Am I just too jaded anymore, or what's the case?
Two things. No, I couldn't agree with you more. First of all, they were acting like a president died in a fiery crash. I mean, the coverage was wall to wall, and every single detail. And are they life-threatening injuries? Are they not life-threatening injuries? What kind of car was it? Is it a coyote that he almost hit? Who cares? Okay, sure, he's a big-time celebrity, and it should have gotten a mention. One of the local sports guys here in Pittsburgh, I just couldn't take the news anymore, so I switched over to the sports talk show. A sports talk show. He mentioned it, said Tiger Woods was in an accident, non-life-threatening injuries, he's in surgery, anything comes up, we'll keep you posted. Why did it require wall-to-wall coverage? And I got to be honest with you, I think Tiger Woods is not a good human being. Now, maybe in the last couple of years, he's had an epiphany and gotten to be better. Maybe. I honestly, I could care less one way or the other. But, all this outpouring of Tiger Woods, he's never been a nice guy. I mean, again, I'm not talking about to his friends, but to the general public, he's never been a nice guy. So why is everybody falling all over themselves, about Tiger Woods? And here's the thing. I hate to bring everything back to politics, but, as we talked about last week, Rush Limbaugh passed away. And, look, I don't care what people's opinions are. If you want to say nasty things about somebody when they die or when they're injured, have at it. That says more about you than it does about them. And if you have feelings against a particular person who passes away, have at it. Don't be fake about it. Just because they died, it doesn't change whether you liked them or you didn't like them. But there is also a degree of just being human. Have some sort of decorum. Have some sort of respect, not even if it's for them, but at least have some respect for yourself. So where I'm going with this is I'm just wondering when it's appropriate that I can start hurling insults at Tiger Woods and bringing up his past and every transgression that he made, kind of like they did to Rush Limbaugh last week. Just because, I'm not on the left, so I'm just wondering if maybe somebody on the left do I have to wait 5 minutes, 45 minutes, 3 hours, or when can I start hurling those insults at Tiger Woods and hashing up his GQ article from, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago, which he said some vile things in.
I don't know how long you have to wait, but last time he was in an accident, it all started this way. So
That's exactly what I said when I first heard this. Well, last time he wrecked his car, he was being chased by his wife with a golf club. Right. So what's the real deal here?
And how come no witnesses stopped? They made the big story about how this is such a busy thing, but yet nobody stopped. And I know for a fact when I see crashes on the side of the road, there's always 2, 3, 4 cars. So I don't know.
And I thought Tiger Woods was supposed to be able to drive.
I get it. I see what you did there.
Yeah, not my best effort.
Oh, my. So, lots of stuff going on. Something that you and I dealt with in the past is a little group called the FCC. And I like to call this finally a lick of sense. So the acting legal advisor of the FCC is reacting to calls from the congressional Democrats to ban Fox News, OAN, Newsmax, and others from cable providers. And he issued a statement. It's a pretty strong statement. It said, "Join me in publicly denouncing this attempt to stifle political speech and independent news judgment." So finally, somebody at some level has got a lick of sense saying you can't eliminate the competition just because you don't agree with them. And I was waiting for someone to finally come up with something like this rather than just let the Democrats roll all over everybody.
This is going to tie into something that I'd really like to talk about tonight, too, as well. Cancel culture, but kind of one of the things that you just mentioned. If you can't beat them, the old saying was join them. Well, now, if you can't beat them, cancel them. And that seems to be the answer to everything.
So if they couldn't beat Fox News, they tried to just eliminate the competition. And
eliminate it. Yeah.
So speaking of eliminating, one of my favorite people to dislike on earth is Bill Gates. Bill Gates, as much as I don't like him, and for numerous reasons, let me go into
I have to stop you there. Please, just like with Dr. Jill Biden, it's Dr. Bill Gates. Well, at least I think he's a doctor, right? Because isn't he the one that's telling us how we should live our lives and how we should take the vaccine and whatnot?
I don't know.
I'm just curious. Isn't it doctor?
He's been dealing with viruses since the 90s. So
yeah.
See what I did there?
Yeah, I did. I see exactly what you did there, and it was just as bad as when I tried. But go right ahead. Speaking of Dr. Gates.
Let me recount some of the highlights of Gates' career, which certainly rest on the towering achievement of the Windows operating system. I use Windows. I'm not a fan of Apple. However, let's take a look at some of the things. So the way Windows looks on screen, the interface, was swiped directly from Apple, not even his own idea. So at that point, the guy in charge of Apple was Steve Jobs. He filed lots of lawsuits, and Gates managed to pretty much crush Apple on the world software market. What he did then was he bailed him out in exchange for Jobs dropping the lawsuits. So he crushes him, he helps him, only to have Jobs crush or get rid of the lawsuits. Then what he did was he found other ways to eliminate the competition and drive manufacturers out of business. Remember the knockoff Word program called WordPerfect? Remember all the job applications said you had to be familiar with WordPerfect? Well, he managed to crush them. And then, even to go a little bit further, he managed to further roll over Apple, in part because Apple's insistence not to license their products to other hardware manufacturers. So what he did was he went to IBM, Dell, Hewlett-Packard. All these were the top machines back in the day. And he got them to load Windows on all these machines instead of Apple. So as soon as the computers came out, Windows would pop up. And with it, it would have his own programs. It would have Word. He killed off, remember Netscape? So he killed off Netscape, in effect, because Microsoft developed their own internet program. Internet Explorer is what it became and he also loaded them with Excel, so you didn't need to go anywhere else. So as much as I can't stand him, and he's stolen most of his ideas, that is how he, in fact, crushed the competition by stealing. But now what they're doing is he got out of the software business, right? So now the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is bankrolling a group of activists who believe that math is racist. I'm sure you heard this over the week. Math is racist. This group of educators have compiled a 6-part toolkit offering an integrated approach to developing an anti-racist math practice. And it's viewed through a social justice lens, right? So the concepts of mathematics being purely objective, as they are labeling them as unequivocal, they're labeling them as false. I can't speak tonight, so bear with me here, folks. And they argue, they focus their whole argument on the basis that the right answer to math equations is an example of white supremacy. So I guess now if you do math correctly, you're a racist. I have no idea how you could tie in being able to answer a math problem correctly, because as far as I knew, there's only one actual correct answer to 2 plus 2, but we all know apparently it's not, and if I know the answer, I'm a racist. So how's your math?
I'm just dumbfounded by this. And look, I believe 2 plus 2 equals 4, but now I don't want to be considered racist. So who do I contact about what 2 plus 2 equals? I mean, this is it's just insanity. This has got to stop, man. This cancel culture stuff has got to stop. And here's the biggest thing. Here's the biggest thing about stories like this, and I did hear it. The biggest thing about stories like this, it's the little boy who cried wolf. Because when everything is racist, nothing is. And honestly, instead of saying racist, I always refer to it as ist, because you're misogynist, whatever ist you want to attach to it, the concept applies. When you make everything racist or misogynist, then the things that truly are get lumped into them and they get minimized. And that's where the real harm is coming from. And you're also taking people who are open to, hey, look, we're not there yet as a country when it comes to things like race. And when you come out and you say things like math is racist, it takes people that are willing to go, yeah, you know what, we aren't there and we've got to do better. Math is racist. Well, why should I even bother? If math is racist, I have no chance of fixing myself. I have no chance of being open to other ideas. I have no chance of being open to other perspectives because math is racist. And basically the person who hears this just goes, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard. And then they become tone deaf to actual racism. And I just don't understand the concept here. Maybe I'm not woke enough, but I just can't follow the concept of how math, on any metric, how math can be defined as racist.
I'm with you there. And I've lived through what I like to call regular math, which is the math we did. And also my young boys have had to live through Common Core math, which is incredibly insane. 15 steps to get the same answer. I didn't like it. Never once in my mind did I consider it racist. But why is everything racist? Like now, Elizabeth Warren is doubling down on her demands for a $15 national minimum wage, saying the increase would be a crucial tool in achieving racial justice across the United States. And she said, here's why the minimum wage is a crucial tool, because it will help build an economy that is more equitable and more resilient for all working people. And she posted this on her social media. And then you have the congressman from California, I don't know if he hot mic'd it, didn't realize he was on, saying he doesn't care about small businesses that can't pay their workers $15 an hour. He doesn't care if they go under. I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but that's what these people are saying. Now, again, they're tying minimum wage into racism?
I hate to make something so simplified, but as I was listening to you speak, one of the things that it just kept going through my mind is, where does this all end? And when do we finally realize we're on the same team? You know, look, I'm not a U.S. historian. I pay attention to history. I like history, but I'm not a historian. But although I was alive in the '60s, I was only 3, 4, 5 years old, so I don't have a lot of recollections of what happened in the '60s and where Martin Luther King and the amazing things that he did. But what I was taught in school, and maybe my teachings in school were also racist. I don't know. I was just taught. But one of the things that he famously said is we need to be judged on our character, right? Not on the color of our skin. Now everything is being taken to be judged by something that you can see with your eyes, whether it's color of your skin, whether it's your sexual identity, whatever it is. We all want to be identified. We all want to be pigeonholed. That was exactly opposite of what was going on in the 60s. And frankly, what's been going on since, 1861 with the Civil War is not identifying people by one physical thing. And now that's what we want to go back to. I don't understand that. I mean, if you can't acknowledge that we've gotten better since the Civil War, that we've gotten better since 1910, that we've gotten better since 1960, I feel bad for you. You're not as woke as you think you are, if that's where you're at. But at what point do we just say, guys, and I mean all 330 million of us, and I don't mean not the girls included, I mean guys in general. Am I still allowed to use guys? I mean, this is how we have to speak anymore. But guys, there's 330 million of us, 350 million of us. When do we realize we're all on the same team? Doesn't mean we have to see everything the same. Doesn't mean we have to have the same opinions on everything. Doesn't even mean we have to have the same or similar values. But we got to realize at some point we're on the same team. And, I remember growing up, I grew up in a mixed race neighborhood. And my best friend was a black kid named Kevin. And honestly, until we got to high school, my best friend was just Kevin. Just Kevin. When I got to high school, I was told that's Black Kevin. And I'm like, no, that's Kevin. I even got in fights over it. Like, no, that's my best friend. And that's the way I grew up. Like, how did we get away from that? In other words, we weren't perfect back then either. But how did we go the complete opposite direction where now the preferred thing would be, I identify him as Black Kevin? That's insane to me. I mean, I don't understand where this is all going. My heart hurts for where America is going and what not the next generation, is it Generation Z? Not that generation. They're the ones screwing us up. What's going on with, I've got nieces and nephews that are 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. What is waiting on them in 10 or 15 years down the road? It's frightening. It's frightening.
Yeah, I can't answer that. But the Party of Unity, they sure like to have fences. So let that sit in for you for a little bit. Did you see this? President Trump has appealed directly to Facebook's oversight board to rejoin the platform. This came across this afternoon. I haven't seen anything further on it.
I did not see that.
Yeah.
Some of us actually work for a living. We're not independently wealthy and just sit in our basement and feel bad for ourselves. I was actually working at my real job that actually pays me real money.
$15 an hour?
I wouldn't know what to do with all that extra money.
Right. Yeah. No, so I saw that. No update on that yet. Hopefully next week we'll get an update on it. He's reached out the hand and says, hey, let me get back in.
Can we tie a little bit back into that, what we were just talking about with the cancel culture? I spent a little time doing some digging into things that are being canceled and things that are and this is going to be in no particular order. It's just in a random. And there's one thing that did set me off, and I'll save that to the last thing. But we're going to go back a couple years on some of these. Some of them are more recent. But do you remember George Washington High School? It's in San Francisco. I don't know if you remember this one or not. but there was a painting that showed scenes of slavery and violence against North America or the Native Americans. At least that's how it was interpreted. They decided, even though this was a painting at George Washington High School and it was a historic painting, and on top of that, the artist was a leftist who wasn't even celebrating what was in the picture. He was actually pointing out the United States' flaws and often brutal founding of this country. So it was exactly the opposite of what the new wokeness was saying it was. They decided to paint over it. They painted over it. And not only did they paint over it, as bad as that is, it cost $600,000. $600,000 to paint over it. You ever heard of Adam Rubinstein?
I have to take a flyer on that.
New York Times opinion editor. He resigned from the paper just this past December, 6 months after the staff went into an uproar. Why did the New York Times staff go into an uproar, forcing their editor to resign? The evil, unbelievable, he had the audacity to let Senator Tom Cotton write an opinion editorial in his newspaper. It was an opposing view than what his staff normally writes. He gots to go, and he resigned. Matthew Iglesias, he resigned from Vox. He started the publication. He was a co-founder of it. His woke colleagues thought he was too far towards the middle. Gots to go. Mike Lindell, CEO of MyPillow, gots to go. Gina Carano, Disney, gots to go. George Washington needs to be canceled and his statue removed by the University of Washington. Crest, the toothpaste people, canceling lefty Chris Harrison. He's the host of The Bachelor. He had the audacity to defend somebody who made a mistake. His point was one of the contestants dressed up in a plantation-style costume, and when she was in college, and he basically said, "Don't ruin this girl's life because something she did in college." I did stupid stuff in college. I think we all probably did. He said, "Don't ruin her life," and for that he needed canceled. He even tried to apologize. That didn't work. J.K. Rowling, Harry Potter author, needs to go. Aunt Jemima was canceled. Pepsi, for an ad that appropriated global protest movements. Goya Foods, because their CEO went to the White House when Trump was in there. Equinox, a gym, gone. Starbucks, yes, you heard me right. Starbucks was targeted because they told employees not to wear Black Lives Matter T-shirts and badges. Nike released a shoe with the original U.S. flag. It had 13 stars on it. Gots to go. Uncle Ben, gone. Are you familiar with singer Madison Beer? I have no idea who he was. I don't even know if it's a man or a woman. I guess it's a woman. Madison Beer, canceled for lying about having plastic surgery while also trying to spread the message that everyone is beautiful. Why isn't it her choice? She had a surgery. It's her choice. If she wanted to do an enhancement on anything, have at it. Here's the one that pushed me over the edge, because I think you see the point here. Just this past weekend, the Muppets, the freaking Muppets, are now apparently some sort of ist. I don't know if they're misogynist or racist or xenophobic or what. Probably all of the above. Are you that weak? Are you that weak of a human being? And my glasses just came off. Are you that weak of a human being that the Muppets offends you? If that's how weak our next generation is, start learning how to speak Chinese, because China will take over this country if that's what's coming down the pipeline as far as the backbone of this country. We're turning into spineless amoebas, jellyfish. If you're so offended by the Muppets that it's sending you to counseling, what is wrong with you? Grow a spine for once. Go instead of getting a vaccine for COVID, go get an injection of some toxic masculinity, because that's what you need, men and women. Go get a toxic masculinity injection, because if you're offended by the Muppets, that's where you are. But there is hope for us, because some people can apparently get away with doing these offensive things. Jimmy Fallon, in 2000, on Saturday Night Live, did a skit, impersonated Chris Rock, used blackface. All he had to do was apologize, and apparently he was okay. Because in his case, apologies were acceptable. His apology said this: "There is no excuse for this. I'm very sorry for making this unquestionably offensive decision, and thank all of you for holding me accountable." Thank all of you for holding me accountable. Now, this doesn't have, before you start saying it, this doesn't have anything to do with blackface. Shouldn't be done. Shouldn't have been done in the past. Shouldn't be done today. Not supporting blackface. What I'm supporting is the double standard here. Virginia Governor Ralph Northam, same thing. College, blackface, no problem. Still the governor of New York, still telling people that it's okay to give birth to a baby, and if the parents think they want to abort it, they can abort it a day or two after it's born, and we'll keep it comfortable. Look it up. He said it. Look it up. It's not taken out of context. There is no read into it. Look it up. He said it. How about Joy Behar? Same exact thing. Appeared in blackface. Another one, still has her job, still spewing out her liberalism. And before you cancel us, or before you say, well, white guy, he can say whatever he wants. He just doesn't understand it. None other than Barack Obama agrees with me. Barack Obama agrees. Let me quote him. This idea of purity, and you're never compromised, and you're always politically woke and all that stuff. You should get over that quickly. Let me repeat that line. You should get over that quickly, said Obama. The world is messy. There are ambiguities. People who do really good stuff have flaws. People who do really good stuff have flaws. People who you are fighting may love their kids and share certain things with you. He also went on to add that among the young people, particularly on college campuses, there is a sense that the way of me making change is to be judgmental as possible about other people. That's not activism. Not enough for you? Another minority, Andrew Yang, just ran for president. I believe that our country has become excessively punitive and vindictive about remarks that people find offensive or racist, that we need to try and move beyond that if we can, particularly in the case where a person is a comedian whose words should be taken in a slightly different light. In other words, nut up, Buttercup. The world isn't all about you. Everything isn't out there to be offensive. Don't be out there crying wolf when there is no wolf to cry about. So, sorry to get so wound up on that, but this is going too far with the math and now the Muppets, and this is just, I've had enough. I've absolutely had enough of cancel culture. We have free speech in this country. Yes, the Constitution addresses what the government can limit, but we have free speech in this country, and we have free speech for a reason, because we're tough enough to hear what the other side has to say. I might not like it. I might hate it. I might despise it. I might be offended by it. But you have every right to say it, and honestly, I want to hear it. If somebody's got something different to say on any topic, I don't care if it's the Steelers. I don't care if it's Trump. I don't care if it's Biden. I don't care if it's whether the West Coast is better than the East Coast. I want to hear it. I'm open to other ideas, because that's how you learn and that's how you educate yourself. I've just had it with this cancel culture, and I've had it with people who aren't tough enough to listen to what somebody else has to say. What say you?
Well, some of the things that drive me nuts are, if you don't agree with something, then anybody likes to throw out the word racist. I don't agree with you, you're a racist. But why does it automatically come to that? As all those ones you pointed out. So I tie it into, well, when my kids get in trouble, they know what to say that maybe worked a couple times to get them out of trouble. Well, now goes along the same lines where I don't agree with you, so you're a racist, knowing that that is the worst thing you could call somebody now. That goes above the triple dog dare. So people just like to throw that out. If you don't agree with somebody else's opinion, then you are a racist. And as you can see, some of the people are finally starting to say, whoa, that's not always the case. we need to take a step back and look at this. The whole Mike Lindell thing, I got to admit, I don't get. This dude was a crackhead who became a Christian and found God and has a multi-billion-dollar business, but now he has to be canceled. Even the Democrats, to some extent, are a little bit eating one of their own when it came to Bruce Springsteen. Remember he had that awesome ad about coming together in the Super Bowl? Probably one of the most divisive people, celebrity out there, does an ad of coming together, and then he gets popped for DUI. So they immediately scrub his ad from everything.
If you remember, they shot that ad back in like October or November. They put that ad out there, and they knew about it.
Yeah, but it was still okay because it was Bruce.
Oh, yeah. Darn it. I forgot my woke handbook.
Yeah, come on now. He's on page 3. And then, what about Coca-Cola telling their employees, don't be so white? I don't know if you saw that. They had an online training thing.
Oh, I did.
And one of the slides was, don't be so white. So
be less white, be less arrogant, be less ignorant, be more humble.
Right. So now I can't drink Coke or I can't drink Pepsi, I guess. So I guess I'm just back to water.
Just go back to snorting it. That's where I'm going. I don't need to drink it. I'm just going to snort it. I'm going to go off into La La Land. Well, wait a minute. That's white powder. You can't have that either.
Man, there you go again. It's time to take a quick break. We got to wind down for a second, and then we'll be right back.
I need to do a line.
It's the Halls of Justice.
Would you like to be a sponsor or advertise on the Halls of Justice? Email us today at hallsofjustice@roadrunner.com. That's Halls of Justice, spelled Justus, at roadrunner.com. If you have a show idea or like to be a guest, you can email us as well at hallsofjustice@roadrunner.com.
So I have to admit, welcome back to the Halls of Justice. Justice and the Fat Man with you. The last couple of weeks, I found this Facebook group, and they're devoted to radio from the 70s and 80s in Cleveland. Mostly they're devoted to the station WMMS, and they had a lot of behind-the-scenes videos of guys back when jocks operated their own boards and took calls, and they had all the carts, and the dude was actually queuing up a record and scratching it back and forth, getting that needle burn until he could get the first hit there, and reading the liner cards, and they had the hot clock, and it just reminded me how much certain aspects of those days I actually miss, and I would love to still be doing that, but the only way I was going to get a raise is if they raised it to $15 an hour. Do you ever still have that yearning to do that, to be behind a real microphone on a terrestrial radio station? You ever have that?
All the time. I mean, look, there was a point where I realized that $13,000, some free CDs, and some free
Cracker
concert
Barrel
tickets
Yeah.
weren't that's right, free Cracker Barrel and some free Domino's coupons. That was not going to carry me through life where I wanted to be, and but honestly, it was the best job I ever had in one of the stations that you and I worked at together. That was some of the best times of my life. Being the program director and doing the morning shows, and you were the music director, and I think even at some point I made you assistant PD, and I loved everything about it. I loved everything about it, and we had some characters on that morning show that would certainly get us canceled because of the culture now. As a matter of fact, if anybody ever digs up those tapes, my life is over. Because stuff that was allowables in the 80s and 90s, I was supposed to know that 30 years later that type of comedy would not be acceptable.
So you can't do Lance anymore.
I miss it. Lance would the ironic part is Lance would be unemployed because that was one of my favorite all-time characters. added so much to that show, I think. And I think it was one of the, like, we would go out and do appearances in public, and people would ask, hey, where's Lance? I mean, people literally thought he was a real character. And that made me so happy when people, hey, how come you never bring Lance when you do public appearances? Why isn't Lance ever here? But yeah, I miss being on the radio. And, that was actually one of the things I've always kept in the back of my mind, that someday, when I get more towards retirement age, just find a part-time gig somewhere in some small town and just enjoy myself again. But, who knows? I do miss it.
I always thought if I ever hit the lottery, I would just buy one of these small 3,000 watt stations or whatever. Just program whatever I wanted. I could be on whatever I wanted. So in my real job that I get paid $15 an hour at, occasionally some of the stories.
When'd you get a raise?
Hey, stop. Some of the stories from those days come up. One of my favorites, actually, there's a couple that stick out. Do you remember when you called the University of Findlay and convinced the girls in the dorm to cover the phones up because the phone company had to blow the dust through the fiber optic lines?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Is that, because I don't remember the school. Is that what, was it the University of Findlay?
Yeah. And,
is that what it was? I remember the bit. Absolutely remember the bit.
And the other one was when you and I spent the better part of a morning trying to track down Elvis in Michigan. So, yeah. Live small town radio is the last, not even anymore, because now everything's voice tracked and the people aren't even there that day. But when we did it, that was the last stop for originality on that level. You could get away with a lot more. You didn't make anything. But, boy, yeah, that sure was fun.
You remember when it was the similar phone bit when, because it was Mark and I back then, and one of us would go out and sit by a payphone.
I do.
And we would call the payphone.
And wait for someone to answer.
People would answer. They'd answer the payphone, and we'd tell them we're trying out the new video phone. And they're like, video phone? This is a regular payphone. And we would just and so you would hear, like, say Mark was out at the parking lot and I was in the studio, you would hear Mark go, tell him you like his red sweater. And I would say, sir, before we get started, I just want to let you know I really like your red sweater. And then you start seeing them look around because there's no camera, and I'm saying, well, can you see me on the screen, sir? Tell him, to ask the person coming out. Hey, could you ask by the way, sir, maybe the person coming out of the Meijer store can help you find the screen, it was, we had to do that stuff tape because at the end of it, they always end up cussing. That, you're right, though. You said that very well. Small town radio was so much fun. That was so much fun. And we were big stars and, thought we were the next Howard Stern or Casey Kasem or whatever. And here we were, there was 8 people listening to us, but we thought there were 8 million.
Yeah.
Kind of like now.
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty much just like now. All right. So we're out of the break. What do you got else you want to toss out here?
Okay. So it's been all over the news for the last, however long, week or even a little bit longer. It's been rebranded though. This COVID relief bill that has now been rebranded as the American Recovery Act. And this is absolute proof that the swamp people are back in charge. Do you realize we are approaching $30 trillion in debt? And I can tell you right now, it is at 27,946,567,900 and some, and I can't keep up with this. Is going so fast. So before this show's over, we might get to 28 trillion in debt. So what's the best thing to do when you're that far in debt? It's to go and borrow more money, pass more money on to the generations coming after us, pass more debt onto your children, pass more debt onto your grandchildren. And one of the things about everything in Washington is the devil is in the details. The Democrats are wonderful at rebranding something or at branding something, except for defund the police. Boy, they missed on that one. But pretty much everything else, they are excellent at naming. And then if that name doesn't work, they rename it. Look at climate change, global warming, global cooling. They just, when a term stops working, they rebrand it. So they've rebranded this now the American Recovery Act because it didn't make sense as a COVID relief bill. And here's some of the reasons that it didn't make sense. It's going to be about $422 billion go out in stimulus checks. Now, on the surface, that sounds good because a lot of people were out of work. A lot of people lost their jobs, couldn't go to their jobs. $422 billion with a B going out in stimulus checks. That means checks are going to go to about 90% of Americans. Now, here's the question, and I don't mean to be insensitive about this, and honestly, it isn't. But if you had a job and you were making $37,000 a year, for example, and you didn't stop working while we've been going through this COVID, why are you getting a check? If you've maintained your job and if you've maintained your income, why are you getting a check? Makes no sense. $350 billion with a B to states who couldn't balance their budget even before COVID. This isn't a COVID relief bill. $170 billion for schools. That's on the surface sounds good. Here's the catch. Devil's in the details. Even if the schools are not coming back, they can still get the money. The money will be spent between 2022 and 2028. So this isn't even money to get the schools open right now. And you say, great, hey, money for schools is always a good thing. But they don't have to spend it, and it's not even for reopening schools. We can open up schools tomorrow. They're ready to go. $100 million for a high-speed train in Nancy Pelosi's district to take people from San Francisco to Silicon Valley. $750 million for global response, i.e. other countries, global response to COVID. $750 million of our dollars, of our debt, to send COVID shots to other countries. America last. Remember that. How about $270 million for arts and humanities endowments? And that is different from the $200 million that's going to go to the museums. You can argue whether these are good programs or these programs need to be done, but it shouldn't be in a COVID relief bill. $50 million for family planning. $1.5 million, chump change in Washington, D.C., to build a new bridge for Chuckles Schumer so he can have a new bridge over to Canada. Also in the COVID bill, raise that minimum wage to $15. Let's get out there and kill those small businesses that are still in business. Let's get out there and tear them up and make them double their employees' salary and get them out of there. Let's have all Walmarts and all McDonald's. We don't need small business anymore. They want to expand Obamacare in this bill, expand Medicaid, which means more universal health care, Paycheck Protection Program. They haven't even spent the money from the original round of PPP, pension bailouts, funding for equity commissions. What the hell's an equity commission? But we're going to fund it. Extend unemployment bonuses until September. The economy's coming back. Why are we extending that additional bonus money until September? Most people are going to be back to work by then with the way we're going with the vaccine. There's trillions of dollars from previous spending bills that still haven't been spent. And we're going to add $1.9 trillion that we don't have. And it's filled with pork. Even if you say, let's send out those stimulus checks. Let's get 90% of America. Let people who kept their jobs, send them a check anyways. That's still only $422 billion. Yeah. Why are we adding $1.9 trillion? And here's one other small detail. It's 4% of the money. Small detail for you. 4% of the $1.9 trillion. 70 billion. 70 billion. Literally pocket change in Washington, D.C. is going to go to vaccines and getting vaccines in arms, to vaccine infrastructure, anything associated with getting shots in arms. 70 billion. 170 is going to schools. 350 is going to states so they can balance their budgets. 422 going out in checks. 100 million for a train. 70 billion. 750 million is going to the global response. 750 million is going to the global response to help other countries. What are we getting? 70.
So what percentage does that come out?
4%.
4% is actually
4%.
going to helping the American public?
To get shots in arms. And then 420 some billion if you include the stimulus check. So even if you include that, that's still $500 billion. All this other stuff is filled with fat, with fluff. And it's just, it'd be one thing if we were having this conversation back in April or May or June when we were really starting to get into this and people were losing their jobs and we didn't know when anything was going to open up. And, even in my business, I wasn't allowed. I was shut down by the governor. And, I was told you can't work. I had no choice. I had for over 6 weeks, I didn't have a paycheck come in. Not one. Then I didn't qualify for any of the extra bonus foo-foo money. And I had nothing. Would I have loved to have gotten a $1,400 check or a $2,000 check then? Yeah, absolutely. It would help me make ends meet. But now we're talking about the unemployment benefits is going to start in June and go through September. The economy's roaring back right now as Trump and Kudlow predicted. We're in a V-shaped recovery. We're absolutely storming back, and it's just going to keep getting better as more people keep getting vaccinated. Why are we trying to add $1.9 trillion? Easy answer. Guys, it's really an easy answer. This is all a liberal wish list, and this is just like the HEROES Act. If the Republicans don't support this, it's so easy to go, hey, they didn't support the American Recovery Act. Yeah. They didn't want America to recover. Just like when they said, exactly. Same thing happened with the HEROES Act. It was all about packaging unless you saw the devil in the details. And they're also talking about reconciliation. If they do reconciliation on this bill, they can do it without any Republican support. Beware, people. Beware.
So here's another question for you then. So, and I agree with you. If you're making whatever you're making now, you didn't lose your job, you didn't lose any income, why do you get the check? I don't know what your base salary should be, 32,000, 60,000, 10,000, I don't know. But here's another thought. The people that are or were on unemployment before the COVID even hit, that were still getting their bills paid, got even more money on unemployment. So do they still deserve the $1,600 check? I mean, it's not like they lost money. They actually gained money through this. So, where do we delineate who gets paid and who doesn't get paid? And again, not to argue, I agree. The people with income in a full-time job or, 2 jobs and didn't lose anything probably don't need the money, no. But why are we giving money and extending unemployment benefits as well then? If this is what they were getting before, I mean, obviously if you're out of work, you're not losing a job, right? So where do we go?
That's exactly my point. We'd all I don't care if you're making $450,000 a year. If you get a check in the mail for $2,000, that makes you happy. I mean, free money makes you happy. And all the Democrats are doing right now is trying to buy votes. That's what it is with this bill. That's what it is with what they're doing at the border, with opening up the border. That's what it's doing with the student debt forgiveness, wiping out student debt. If you think of all the 16, 17, 18, up to maybe 22, 25, 28-year-olds, maybe even 30-year-olds who are saddled with college debts because of decisions they made, and all of a sudden you're $75,000 in debt, and here comes Joe Biden, hey, youngster, tell you what I'm going to do. You're $75,000 in debt, and let me sniff your hair a little bit. Oh, yeah. Okay, that's perfect. Your debt's gone. Poofo, woofo. Debt gone. Next. Oh, yeah.
Dude, I'd let him sniff my hair for that.
I would have sniffed it. But the thing is, all they're doing is buying your love. That's it. They're playing the good parent. That they're a terrible father. Yeah, exactly. They're a terrible father that comes home with a toy every Friday and is a horrible, horrible father the other 6.5 days during the week.
Yeah.
But one day a week, he brings a toy home for his child. And now the kid's happy for a little bit and thinks dad's great because he brought him a toy and overlooks all the other crap that they're doing. This is just despicable how much money that we are piling on to the debt. And I'm not an economist. I'm not smart enough to figure this out. But how could, and this is one of the problems, to be honest with you, I had with President Trump. We had a booming economy under Trump. Booming. And the debt continued to rise. Not at the rate that Obama did. Not, he wasn't raising it, to the degree. Obama, the famous statistic on Obama was he accrued more debt, more onto the national debt than all the presidents before him combined. Okay, so but Trump, under that circumstance where he had the economy booming, why weren't we doing something about the debt? I mean, isn't the debt important? Again, maybe someday we can talk to an economist. I don't understand why no one pays attention to the debt. And, well, I guess I do understand it, because to start talking about the debt, you have to put your big boy panties on, and nobody wants to do that. You got to be the bad parent when you start talking about paying down the debt.
At the end of the day, I don't think it matters how much we go in debt, because we only have 9 years left to live anyway. So we might as well pile it on. And what I'm getting at is John Kerry's prediction that humanity has less than 9 years to avert a climate catastrophe. That's it, 9 years before we make a difference, or we're going off the deep end. So before I get to actual facts on this, what do you think about that?
I got to be honest with you. If John Kerry said that the two of us were sitting here doing a podcast right now, I wouldn't believe him. That's how much I trust John Kerry. But I do know this is absolute fact that we only have 9 years left. And the reason I know this is an economics student who doesn't understand economics but made one hell of a martini and is now a congresswoman from New York said that we only have 9 years. And with those kind of credentials, an average student at Boston University or wherever she went, if she's, and again, was great at making a tequila sunrise, how can you argue? I mean, if she knows how to make a tequila sunrise, she surely knows if the sun's going to burn us to a crisp.
That's true.
How do you argue with that?
I know. So, but however, I started digging into this and found that there was an extensively peer-reviewed study that was published in the journal. Anything that starts with the journal is good. The Journal of Atmospheric and Solar Terrestrial Physics that indicates observed climate changes since 1850 are linked to cyclical, predictable, natural occurring events in the Earth's solar system with little or no help from us. So they may not be able to make sex on the beach, but I bet they know a little bit more about science and such than your girlfriend AOC. That's how.
Did you ever try sex on the beach? It's painful. That's the worst idea ever. Sex on the beach is the worst idea ever. The second worst idea ever was having AOC go to Congress. But, here's the thing. They say this is settled science. I don't know that it's settled science, but I was willing to give up fossil fuels. I was willing to give up warmth and heat and go live in a teepee. I was willing to give up my SUV. I was willing to give up my motorcycle. I was willing to give up all of these, these creature comforts. But when they said, you got to stop eating beef because these cow farts are killing us, that's where they lost me.
Through the line.
That's right then and there. And going back to earlier in the show, when we were talking about racism, they went too far. They kept pushing me, and I kept going with them, and they'd push me, and I'd go with them. And then they pushed one. You start, bringing cows down. You start insulting cows. I'm out. You lost me.
Don't come between the fat man and his food. Jeez. Yeah, so as much as they would like to think the movie, what was it? The Day After Tomorrow was one of them, and what was the other one? 2012, something like that, where the Earth ends basically overnight. As much as they want to project that fear, I just don't see it happening. There's been too many studies showing it, hey, the Earth does this. It has cool periods. It has warm periods. You know, and that's where we're at. I'm sorry, but
Isn't it a bit arrogant, though? I mean, the left epitomizes arrogance, but isn't it a bit arrogant to think we, me, the fat man, driving my SUV and sitting here in a fossil fuel heated condo has enough power to destroy a planet?
we know you.
Come on.
How about, isn't it
I mean,
arrogant?
look.
Isn't it
I'm
arrogant
not a
that
science.
the climate czar drives or flies around in a private jet?
No, now you don't see again.
I can't go there.
You Republicans are like this. You conservatives are like this. You don't because you're uneducated. See, this is what it is, Mr. Justice. This is you are uneducated. I got to stick up for John Kerry here. You just don't understand how damn important he is. Someone like him, his words, someone like him needs to get around on a private plane. Not like someone like you,
No.
but someone like him.
Yes. Sorry. I apologize.
No, you're canceled. You're canceled. There's no apologies. You're canceled.
Darn it. Wait a minute. I'm not making any money from this, so you're not really hurting
I have
me.
got to get off. I got to get on decaf, man. I got to get on decaf.
So it came out the Supreme Court's not going to hear the election fraud stuff, right? We knew that was coming. But Judge Thomas wrote an awesome dissent. I don't know if you had a chance to read it, so I'll summarize it in a few sentences. He said, the decision to leave election law hidden beneath a shroud of doubt is baffling. He also wrote, by doing nothing, we invite further confusion and erosion of voter confidence. Our fellow citizens deserve better and expect more of us. And I can't put it any better than that. So that's a pretty strongly worded dissent there.
Literally sitting here with a tear in my eye. Judge Thomas is an amazing American, and what a tremendous perspective. I mean, this is what most conservatives and to be honest with you, most Trump supporters have been saying. Look, we know what happened this last election. I'm not 100%. I don't think the election was won completely by cheating. But here's the thing. We can debate that all day long. There were the videos and the boxes showed up and 3 a.m. the numbers changed. We could talk about all of that stuff. All I want to know are the facts. We need a bipartisan commission that looks at not only what happened in the 2020 election, perhaps even go back to the 2016 election, and make sure that if we can't get it done for 22, and if we can't get it done for the midterms, let's get it done and make sure our voting is secure for the 2024 election. Because I could, unlike my liberal counterparts who are offended by the Muppets, Kermit is just too much for them. I'm not offended by the outcome of a fair election. But that's all I want is a fair election. So let's have a commission, bipartisan, explore what happened. And then maybe you don't even need the Supreme Court at that point. Somebody dig into it and say, here's where the holes are. And they don't even have to come out and say, so this person cheated, that person cheated, this person. Look, here's where the holes are in our election system. First of all, get rid of mail-in voting, which is insanity to me. But, that's just my opinion. And find out how we can do voting better. That's all. That's all I want out of it. I don't want an election overturned. I don't want doubt over Joe Biden being president. And I don't want doubt when Kamala takes over. I can live with it for 4 years. I'm not a cancel culture. Okay, but I want to get it right in 2024, if not in 2022. It's that simple. I just want to get it right.
Yeah, and I think that's what they're saying. Is, hey, we talked about it before. Let's let people know that their vote is actually going to count. Let's come up with some sort of get to the bottom of this. This is what happened. This is what can be done better. And I agree with you. The mail-in voting, the non-signature voting is just insane. That just cries out. And I think it's only going to get worse. How long is it going to be before somebody comes up with, you don't even have to leave the house anymore. You could just vote online. how long is that going to be? So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, look how people drive. You know, if it had a 50, used to be if you have a 55 zone, that meant you could go like 61, and most cops would let you go. And then it was like, they're letting 61 go. Maybe I need to go 68. Well, they're letting 68 go. Maybe I need to go 73. Now people go 85 in 55 zones. And, so, the point being is if they just laid the groundwork for, hey, we cheated a little bit, and maybe not enough to win the election, but we cheated a little bit. We just did proof of concept. We can cheat and win for the greater good, because that's the way they looked at it. Defeating Donald Trump was the greater good by any means necessary. So they've just laid out the blueprint. They just went 61 in a 55 zone and got away with it. Well, if you don't do anything about it, and if you don't look for holes in the system, Democrat or Republican, doesn't matter to me. I just want the winner to be accurate. But if you don't look for holes in the system, people exploiting those holes are just going to keep making them bigger and bigger. It's that simple.
Yes, sir. You got that. So guess where we're at? Our hour is coming.
Don't tell me it's the end of the big show.
You're being canceled. I'm sorry, man.
I don't have anything funny to add.
Nothing.
Don't we? Something bright, and I can't think of anything.
Yeah. Usually
I don't like when you're on the shelf, and there's got to be one good thing. Hey, just on a complete side note.
Yes.
It's interesting what's going on with the Capitol. There's a little bit of an investigation going on now with what happened with the insurrection. But apparently, and I had heard rumblings of this before, but apparently the Capitol police officer that they said was, beaten with the fire extinguisher, apparently it's coming out that didn't happen that way. And, look, it's a tremendous tragedy that he was killed in any way, shape, or form, and that it was connected to this, and people responsible for it need to pay. But I'm just curious why we're not hearing the truth. It's pretty much, I'm hearing it a lot of sources now. They're saying it didn't have anything to do with a fire extinguisher. And that and ultimately where I'm going with this is if the Democrats manipulated that information to make their impeachment sound better, is there anything worse than exploiting the death of anyone? Especially if somebody who was trying to protect you. I mean, he was trying to protect the exact people who may be exploiting his death by not reporting the true facts, and also not reporting the true facts, lying by omission. But not only not reporting the true facts, but reporting false facts. And so keep an eye on that story.
We'll look for it this week. Here's a funny one for you. Okay, man has won in North Carolina $500,000 in the Powerball. Do you know how he did it? He
played.
If you know, I'm going to be amazed.
I don't. No, I don't. I don't.
He used the numbers from his fortune cookie.
No.
Yeah, February 23rd. Man who collected $500,000 Powerball prize in North Carolina said his lucky lottery numbers came from an unusual source, a fortune cookie. So, see there?
That is so offensive. He needs canceled. How dare he exploit a Chinese? That's appropriation.
I think
that's appropriation.
I don't know. I think you're going to be canceled for saying he needs canceled because that's offending me. Where does it stop? Alrighty, Fat Man. We will catch you next week on the Flip Flop. Over and out.
All right, Justus.
Roger Dodger. Be good and get well soon. I don't know. Any good closings?
No, that's your job. What do you get paid for?
Oh.
That's your job to close the show.
I do have a present coming for you in the mail sometime this week, though. So be on the lookout.
Good Lord willing, and the creeks don't rise. We'll see you next week.
All right.
You've been listening to The Halls of Justice. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. If you have a show idea, would like to be a guest, or just want to communicate with the show, email us at hallsofjustice@roadrunner.com. You can also find us on Facebook. Tell all your friends. And we'll see you for a new episode next week of The Halls of Justice.